So first of all, hello to everyone. I think the thing that makes a Feldenkrais training so different is that you're really encouraged to know yourself through your senses, which is a really different experience for most of us. For most of us, especially scholastic learning, is about ideas, it's about thinking, and it's not really ever thinking or experiencing, how do I learn? How do I make sense of the things that I do? And I think for most people coming into a training, especially the first segment of a training, it's such a difference to be completely asked to be immersed in your sensory experience, in doing very unusual movements for many people, doing if I think of some of the lessons we do in the first segment that are based a lot on baby development. So going back, and I think most of us, the people who have done a training, if we think back to that first month, we go, this isn't what I thought I was letting myself in for. This isn't what I thought the Feldenkrais training was about. So even though I hadn't had a lot of experience with Feldenkrais before I started, I'd done some workshops. The training itself was an amazing experience where I had to really let go a lot of my expectations of what it was that I was learning or what I could tell people about the experience, and just to really allow myself to be immersed in my sensory experience. And then, of course, as the years go on and you bring more of all of the other aspects, the other important aspects of how do we talk about the movement, how do we learn to teach others to be able to experience this method, of course, the focus changes, but it's always based, coming back to our sensory motor experience and our thinking and our feeling around that. So again, most of the day you will be, you're lying on the floor or you're sitting and you're doing awareness through movement lessons. You're really being asked to pay attention, make distinctions about things that maybe for some of you, not all of you, but for some of you will be really new. That you're being asked to enter a language often that many of us don't enter in a big way. So when I first did Feldenkrais, it was so different because we were doing such unusual movements all the time. And it was always me that had to decide whether something was easier or more connected or whatever it was. It wasn't the teacher, if you like, that. So I didn't feel I had to meet up to someone's expectations, which for me, learning to enter this new world was incredibly profound. And for me to learn that I had to learn for myself. I think it's a little bit, as you said, Indira, that I actually had to learn for myself to make the distinctions, to decide what worked better for me. That was profound for me, especially coming from a physiotherapy background where I was the expert in a way. Do you know what I mean? I was the one who was sort of meant to know about movement or what was good posture or showing people how to do what they were doing based on no experience at all, simply in my head, So I was getting quite frustrated as a physiotherapist. But I think that's the profound thing. It's you learning through your experience to decide what feels better for me, not relying on someone else to tell you, Of course, you'll have, and then you start to hit models. You start to realize, I've got an idea about what I should be doing or what feels better for me. But maybe I have to learn to hold that idea very lightly or give it up because my experience is telling me maybe that idea is getting in the way of what works for me. So I think a Feldenkrais training is incredibly rich. It's incredibly complex. It's really perturbing in many ways because you are being asked to hold things, hold beliefs, hold ideas very lightly, and to try not to get stuck in what you think is the way things should be, but to keep coming back and noticing, how is my breathing at this point? Am I being perturbed? Is this something that I can find another way to think about, another way to do? So it's incredibly profound. And I think a lot of people after a first session often go home and go, I can't pin exactly what I've learned here or what is different, but I know that I've entered a process. And I think that's what Feldenkrais is about. It's about entering a process of learning, a process of discovery, and a process of, as Indira said, of becoming more human. And I think all of those things we can apply to all parts of our lives. So in Feldenkrais, we learn to do it through the sensory motor part of our lives. And we start to realize that the thinking is an incredibly important part of that. The feelings are an incredibly important part. But our focus is to keep coming back to, so if I've got an idea about something, about this should be this way, I start to notice, have I tightened up to do that? What have I done in my thinking? Have I stopped other ideas from being possibilities? And I'm going to do that through my sensory motor experience. I'm really going to learn what it is to learn and how I can find ways to enable myself to be more creative, if that's what I want to be more grounded, if that's what I want to be more expressive, to be more still. I'm going to explore all of these ways of being more human. Maybe it's more, how do I give or how do I take? All of these things that sound quite sort of esoteric, I am going to learn to do and learn to understand through my organisation. What do I do that makes life difficult for myself? What do I do that makes life easier for myself? What do I do when, and through all of this, just as again Indira was saying, I'm going to learn about these relationships within myself, to include more and more of myself in my image, and to realize when I get into difficulty, I close parts of myself off, which closes my options off, which gives me old ways that maybe aren't relevant anymore to doing what I want to do. So I've made all of that, I know, a little bit esoteric, but that to me is what a Feldenkrais training is. It's really special in that it's really bringing you to yourself in very profound ways, because what makes a good Feldenkrais practitioner is their ability to understand their process, which allows them to allow other people to find their process.